The following takes place between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m.
And hello once again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Time Out for Sports Talk here at the Belmont Media Center, where here in our 19th season, we continue to be Belmont's first and only all-live sports talk show. And we welcome you tonight to the program here on Monday, October the 24th, 2011. My name is Todd Bloniars, and we will be here live for the next 60 minutes on October the 24th, taking your phone calls at 617-484-2443. This is a live show, and we do take phone calls, so we'd love to hear from you. Again, that number is 617-484-2443. Of course, our show gets rebroadcast approximately 25,000 times each month, and you can catch one of those various rebroadcasts on the Belmont Media Center website or on blip.tv. We also, of course, if you catch one of the rebroadcasts and would like to send us a comment, we do have an email address too, as a matter of fact, both Hotmail and Gmail. We have Time Out for Sports Talk, all one word, at those addresses. And then, of course, you can also become a fan on Facebook, and I do go on there at least once a month to let you know when the next live show is. Occasionally, if I get really crazy, I might go on a second time and post something else up there, but I haven't really gotten to that point yet with the page. It's still kind of a work in progress, but check us out. We do have approximately, we have some fans. We have more than 3, less than 100. So we'll see if we can work on that in the months to come. Gentleman to my left in the co-pilot's seat, always happy to see him, Howie McClellan.
It's amazing. I can't believe it. I actually started doing the show when I was 10. This is our 19th season.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You've been here for most of them. Which I also heard
I'm still filling in.
Right. I also heard you added to your wardrobe recently. You want to...
Yes.
I think our... Victoria Haze will get a shot of this on the camera, hopefully, if all goes well. See, we get a close-up there, a nice little zoom in. How he went on vacation recently, and look at what he came back with, a scorpion.
Yeah. Bored one day on vacation, so I figured we'd go get tattoos.
There you go. Add that to your collection. How many does that make now?
3.
3. Okay.
And I've already got my 4th one picked out. See, I feel kind of off balance now because I got one here, and I feel balanced. And now I got one of the legs.
You got to get the other leg.
Well, I got to get the other leg, and I've already picked out. I got a picture of Pat Patriot on steroids.
Okay.
Nice. Nice.
And that'll go here. That'll be the final piece to the puzzle.
All right, and we're very.
I just hope that the NFL doesn't come and test me or anything.
And now with that segue,
that a long time ago, but
with that segue, we will introduce our guest this month, John Mallory, the freelance syndicated columnist. I guess the official title, and
all over the place.
You can currently find him on ESPN.com, but he's also his work can be seen in Patriots Football Weekly, Boston Baseball Magazine, New England Golf Monthly, and some of the local sports for Methuen Life Magazine. Boy, you cover like the whole sports gambit, and of course, you used to also be a former kind of a media critic.
Oh, sure. The old Media Blitz column. Yeah, if they'd send me a check, I'll do it, Todd. But it's always a pleasure to come back here. I love coming back here. I love your studio, love your set, love the Breakers helmet, and I think they should test Howie. I've long
there's
been
no doubt about that.
I've long been a proponent of testing Howie. So.
Hey, I should ask you, John, what do you think of some of the new, obviously, the different, either through the Globe or the Herald,
sure.
We've seen like, Jim Craig, not Jim... What was this?
He was the goalie for the
Jack Craig was the old
Craig.
TV guy, yeah.
Jack Craig, and then Jim Baker. I was putting their names together. They used to be quite prominent around here. And of course, there's been a change in the sports media landscape over the last decade or so.
Yeah.
I'd say probably the most prominent site you have out there. Well, Chad Finn is now picking that up for the Globe. Have you had a chance to look at any of his work?
Sure, absolutely. I think
he actually has a great column called "Touching All the Bases."
Yeah, I think it's great. And Bruce Allen still has his Boston Sports Media.
Which I was
mediablitz.com website. And
gonna get to that,
You know,
too.
like I said, I started doing Media Blitz back in 2000 for that very reason. The Globe and the Herald were the only two papers doing it, and I thought there was more of a need for that. Got the column into some of the smaller, I shouldn't say smaller than the Globe and Herald, the Eagle Tribune, the Lowell Sun, Providence Journal, and there's a place for it. You know, I don't know how much legitimate media criticism you can do these days in Boston, I'll be honest with you, because of the fact that there are so many, there's so much intermingling with the media now, with radio stations and television stations and newspapers kind of using each other's personalities. It's a little difficult, I think, if you're a newspaper editor and you're on, let's say, WEEI, to have a columnist that might be critical of WEEI. And I found that in my own experiences that it was very difficult. You know, I worked for guys in the Tribune and at the Boston Metro who wanted to be on WEEI. And it was a little tough when you're doing a legitimate media column and you're trying to be critical and analyze what's going on. And I don't mean hatchet jobs, I just mean media analysis. You know, a lot of time, I'm not sure Boston is a ripe place for really good media criticism now. I think you can talk about it. I think there are a million blogs out there, but I'm not sure that there's enough, I don't want to say credibility, but credibility to to have a legitimate media column. I think you almost have to be part of the in crowd to do a media column now, and I always I always kind of prided myself on being a little bit outside of that group
I was gonna say,
and be able to look at it.
criticism, how objective can you be if you're part of the in crowd?
Well, you can't. You can't. You can do an entertaining column, and you can have an entertaining site, which I think all the guys you mentioned do, and I admire
Well, and they're
them
all
for what
impartial.
they do.
They're not affiliated with any. You know, Bruce Allen and Chad.
Bruce is definitely not affiliated. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
He's independent.
And he's got a lot of people working with him doing that. But I think it's a slippery slope in Boston now with media criticism, because I think a lot of the people want to be liked by those guys, and you can't always be liked.
Well, the irony, I think, is that the truth is, I think that right now they're as worthy, or more worthy than ever, to have media criticism out there. You know, it's interesting. We had you on, I think it was about a year ago, John.
Probably right around a
and
year,
at that
yeah.
time, of course, 98.5, the Sports Hub, had just finished a year on the air, and they were
Right.
still kind of an upstart. They were still trailing EI in the ratings. Well, now since we've had you on, I mean,
Totally.
and certainly I think the Bruins winning the Stanley Cup and the games being broadcast on 98.5
Yeah.
helped a lot, and I think that got people over there. I mean, now all of a sudden Sports Hub has passed EI in the ratings, and
Yeah.
by a large margin. I mean, what are your thoughts kind of on the radio battles? I know we've got other sports to get to, and
No,
we will in a
this
minute,
is
but
good.
I'm kind of
I think it's not great for EI, so they don't think it's great for the market, but I think it's great for the market. I think there finally now is a station out there that not only has the talent that can compete with WEI, but has the signal. I mean, we've seen incarnations of rivalries, if you will, back to the Zone, and then ESPN 890 in Boston, but
Quack,
they
quack,
did,
I think,
and they had good people working there. They had excellent people working there. But when you drive out of Belmont and you can't hear it, or you drive up to Methuen and all of a sudden you have to go to a different channel to pick up what you were just listening to, it's not going to work. 98.5 has the powerful signal behind it. They've brought in some good people. Damon Amendolara, I think, has established himself as a nighttime guy, and I think look, a lot of the
you
guys
pulled up the one you mentioned. The first name you mentioned is the one guy who came from out of town. Interesting.
Yeah, which is also interesting that they brought someone in from out of town, because that's a little bit unprecedented around here as well. So I think it's good. I think it makes it interesting. And look, I think WEEI, you can never, even when I was critical of WEEI, and when I am critical of WEEI, I was never critical of what they did. They created sports radio in this city on a wide range. Obviously, Eddie Andelman and guys like that were doing it.
Yeah, they
before.
celebrated their 20th anniversary
Yeah.
last month.
And-
It kind of went unnoticed, I think, just because of where they are, where
Yeah.
they're at right now. Kind of
I mean,
in a sad way that they didn't want to at least acknowledge
Their
it. It's
message
kind of
isn't always so great, but their method has worked. But I think maybe this will light a fire under them, and I do think that people get tired of hearing the same shtick over and over. You kind of know where Jerry Callahan's going to fall on an issue. You kind of know where Glenn Ordway is going to fall on an issue. And I didn't like what they did with the Big Show, the pairing of Glenn Ordway and Michael Hawley. I like both of those guys. I think they're both very talented, but I liked Ordway with his crew that he had in there, his kind of recurring guys, the Bill Burts and the Smirlises. I thought that was the strength of Ordway, is that he was, I always used to call him the Larry Bird of sports radio, because he made stars. He was a star maker. And I think maybe EI needs a little bit of a shake-up. They're bringing in some different people now, Mutt. And
The two
Lou
guys
Maloney.
going against Ordway now on the Sports Hub are guys he kind of created. He
Exactly.
created a
Yeah.
monster there.
And it's kind of
Ordway.
funny. Before I came here, I was on the phone with Tony Maserati. I'm name dropping.
Well, Tony's been a former call. He's
Yeah,
been on
I
our
saw
show
him. I
before.
saw him in
We
the
thought it was
open.
good.
Yeah, and I just
he's-
interviewed him for the golf column because he's a big-time golfer too. But I think it's good that he's gotten that opportunity because he was kind of passed over a few times at EEI when they had openings, and I know he didn't like it. He told me, in print that he didn't like it. So I think it's good. And look, they had a big coup last
He used to
week
be like
with
a
John
whipping
Henry
boy to
going
them,
in there.
too.
He was.
Yeah,
But you know what? I like Tony Maz because he always kind of stood his ground and he didn't kind of fall prey and falling into the whole WEEI machine. He stood his ground against Ordway. I always enjoyed listening to him despite the voice.
There you go.
Actually,
I agree.
Yeah, it's funny now. They actually put his voice. They actually make his voice sound higher. They do some effect to it occasionally, and they make it sound like super squeaky. Which actually, it makes it. It's hilarious.
He's a
to hear
great
that.
sport about it. He really is. And what
I don't know how he's
fascinated
kept
me.
his voice because it always sounds like he's shouting on the air.
I know.
And I think he does that because he has such a high voice.
Yeah.
So to compensate for that, I think he figures if he gets louder, his voice doesn't sound as high.
But I
guess.
thought the John Henry thing last week was fascinating, guys. And being a sports media guy, I kind of came at it it wasn't so much that what John Henry said. I honestly, whatever. We've all heard the stories about what went on, what didn't go on in the dugout with Tito and Theo.
We will get
I
to it.
came at it from a media standpoint. How does WEEI feel after they paid $8 gajillion to get the Red Sox
I heard
rights?
Ordway was in mourning.
And the
during
owner
that
goes
time.
on the competition.
Yeah.
And how crazy is John Henry for even doing that? Because all they were doing really was kind of throwing out, I don't want to say BS, but they were just being opinionated on what was going on.
And they've been doing that for the last 3
Yeah,
weeks
yeah.
since the Sox
Right,
got
but it's
eliminated.
not like they were being slanderous or saying, I talked to this person and this is what happened. They were giving their theories, and then he goes in and gives them probably one of the great moments in Boston radio over the last decade.
On top of that, too, you got to figure. Obviously, he had to be listening to.
He was listening
So
to-
obviously, he's listening to the competition too.
Right.
You know, I guess he likes that
I
better
thought
than
that
the
was
EI.
unbelievable.
But here's my question, guys. Do you think he was listening like the last couple of weeks or even that week, and that it was a little more calculated that because he showed up like 20 minutes into their show, like he was just driving by and he had no other plans on Friday afternoon, and then all of a sudden just pulls into the studios over at the old Channel 38, Channel 38 studios on Leo Birmingham Parkway.
It seemed like a pretty spur of the moment thing that
He probably
was,
just had
yeah.
enough listening to it and wanted to say
said,
something.
you know what,
about
I
it.
have to go in and say something, and I was not listening. I ended up listening to it afterward, but I was not listening at the time. But what a move on his part to go in there and subject himself, to what possibly could happen when you go in there with callers and Felger and Maz, especially Felger.
And no Larry Lucchino there.
Yeah, nobody
because he had appeared the previous week on.
I guess I give him
flagship.
credit for doing it, but in some ways I think he's crazy for doing it too.
Yeah, but I think it finally had enough, and it was maybe the first step to show, because all everyone kept saying was, how come we haven't heard from the owners?
Yeah.
Where is Henry? What does he think about all this?
Right.
And nothing had been said for so long, and then all of a sudden, boom, here I am.
It was it was unbelievable, and what got me was, here's this guy, he doesn't go. He could have very easily. They're right near each other, right?
Yes,
they're across the
they're
street.
across the street, yeah,
he could have
exactly.
very easily gone on Ordway and Holly's show and said, you know what, I have to come on here. The guys at the other station are throwing out a bunch of BS. I want to set the record straight, and that's what he probably should have done. But he went on that show and made them even more famous.
The fact he was listening to them too.
was listening to the
listening to the other station.
I mean, I could see Jason Wolf going, "Ah!"
Yeah.
And then
Well, I
other-
guess Ordway. Once he found out, and of course, his show's going live against that.
Yeah.
And he knows at that point that everyone is like anyone who was listening to Ordway at that point switching the channel.
I mean,
and,
honestly, in the world of like Boston sports radio, you could not have a bigger bomb than that.
But
Really.
that's kind of summed up the whole year for Sports Hub versus EEI. Every possible break. If we were to make them sports teams, Sports Hub has gotten every break, and every little thing has gone their way. They broadcast the Bruins games, they win the Stanley Cup. EEI broadcast the Celtics games, and the NBA's in a lockout.
Yeah.
And they've got, and with the Red Sox, and no playoffs for the Red Sox,
Yeah.
which is where we'll segue now into the Red Sox. Seems like a good dropping off point.
I like that.
Well, we had this, actually,
auto destruct.
That's
we
great.
introduced this last month. We were talking about the panic button, but I think now we can officially hit that bottom button, which says auto destruct. And with that, the 2011 season. But yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, EEI lost out on all those potential playoff games. As fans, of course, we lost out on them, and now we'll turn that over. Of course, Game 5 of the World Series could have been tonight at Fenway Park, but instead, we've got Spooky World and the Fear at Fenway. Fear at Fenway, actually, of course, Howie, I know
Starring John Lackey?
Yeah. You and I were talking about this at the beginning of September was when the Fear at Fenway actually started, and the last month we were on our last show, which was like 3 days before the regular season ended. We were still convinced that they'd find a way to kind of sneak into the playoffs, and it didn't happen. So now the question is, as we see, there was many different reasons for not.
I gotta say, I'm loving the pre-show prep here. I'm absolutely loving the pre-show prep.
You love our attempts at humor here.
I'm,
Well, see, there's a little.
I'm very impressed.
There's kind of many meanings of that. These pitchers have their backs turned, of course, and they, we've heard from them recently, but.
No, we've heard from Lester, we've heard from Buckles.
Actually,
we haven't heard from Lackey or Beckett.
Right. We have to do the whole chronological thing, of course, so why don't we start here, 2 days after the season ends and the Red Sox, get eliminated from the playoffs. Terry Francona gone just like that. I mean, there really didn't seem to be much, I guess why don't we start briefly with that? I mean, everyone seems to think he got a raw deal. He's been cast out to be kind of a sympathetic hero in all this now, and we'll get to the Globe article in a minute, but just the initial thought of, did Francona really deserve to go, or was it like he said, maybe it was time to go? The team needed a new voice after 8 seasons?
I think it was, and I think he saw that. Yeah. I think he just realized that they're not listening anymore. We've won 2 championships. It's just not working anymore. It's not working like it used to, and I can't change. And they're not going to change the 25 guys in the clubhouse. So it's time for me to find greener pastures.
I started out being very sympathetic to Francona, and that last press conference he gave, I think what the club wanted to hear, what the media wanted to hear, and as a viewer, what you were hoping he would say is, you know what? I love these guys. These are great guys. It's just time for me to go. It's time. And we know that in business and in sports. Sometimes it's just time. You were there for a long time. You went through a lot. He never said that. He didn't like this team. He did not like this team. Now, certainly individuals on the team, Pedroia, Wakefield, certainly he has a respect for them. But he never said, you know what, I love these guys. It's me. He kind of said it's me, but he never sort of let them off the hook as a good team. I think that as it went on, though, I started to get a little more angry at him and at Theo Epstein and at the ownership, saying, okay, if this stuff was going on, why didn't you do something about it? Why didn't you suspend some players? Why didn't you bench some players? I mean, I can't believe this got by everybody. This got by everybody.
Yeah, I don't buy that it did.
And I'm just saying, why? You're the manager of the team. Does this mean you quit on him? Did you quit on the team? Does Theo quit on the team? I think to a certain extent, both of these guys, when the going got tough, they left. They took off because they've been through the ringer too much. They've been here too long. But regardless, I don't think we can just let them go and simply say goodbye and thanks. I feel like both of them kind of quit on the team. No, I mean it. I definitely believe that's a good sentiment for what they've done. But to me, look, it's easy to hang around when you're winning World Series and everybody loves you and dirty water and all that. Now they have to right the ship, and they both took off, and that bothers me a little bit.
Okay.
But where is Veritek in all this? Where's Ortiz?
Correct.
Where are these guys that are the
Wakefield,
veterans?
where were they? Right.
Not standing up. You hear Ortiz now.
Right.
Hey, that's all done with. I forgot about it. We don't want to talk about it. You haven't heard nothing out of the captain, Veritek.
Yeah, that's. What was with that letter?
Yeah, where are these guys? Where's this Gonzalez who's supposed to be the next Hall of Famer? Why doesn't he stand up? I know he's the new guy, but even more reason to say, hey, what's going on? This isn't what I heard about.
He's obviously not going to be a vocal lead. When he chalked it up to the Almighty, it's just the way it was.
Yeah, we played too many Sunday night games.
I think the answer to that, Howie, it's a great point. It's one of the first ones I thought of, which is how I know it's great.
Thank you.
And
see, great minds think alike.
The answer is, I don't think your captain can be a backup catcher.
Yeah.
And I don't think your other leader can be a 6th starter who only has a knuckleball and who's my age. I think that if you're going to have a captain, it needs to be somebody that carries a little bit more weight in the clubhouse. With all due respect to Veritek, he's been great. But I think that's the answer, is that who's going to listen to Jason Veritek at this point, right?
Exactly.
Well, you know, what about Ortiz? You brought up Ortiz.
Yeah.
Howie. The one quote you left out that he said, which I found hilarious, was, you know, I can't handle all, you know, there's
Yeah,
too
the
much
drama.
drama now.
Yeah.
There's too much drama. Excuse me, David, because I seem to remember a certain point in the middle of this season when he burst into Francona's post-game press conference to mention they had to have some
Complaining
scoring.
about an RBI that
Yeah.
was taken away from him.
Right. That's not drama.
This whole Red Sox thing has kind of become now the second question that I want to ask God when I go to heaven, and I will go to heaven.
Well, no, only if Team Tebow says so.
The first question I always wanted to ask was, if Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, does he eventually get benched in 2001 for Brady? And the second question is going to be now, if that whole unraveling doesn't occur that last night of the season and they get into the playoffs, and let's say they win a playoff series, maybe not even go all the way, but get into the ALCS, whatever, does all this happen anyway? Does Francona leave? Does Theo leave? Or because they got in the playoffs, does that mean everything would be okay?
Does Popeye's Chicken not get the extra
Yeah.
advertising
And
that
do
they
we
got
care
free?
that they're drinking in the dugout if they're going to the World Series? You know?
Well, what about the fact that, of course, ownership did not pick up Francona's options, making him essentially a lame duck manager? You know, yeah, where did Francona lose these guys? Was it
Great question.
Was it that because the players knew that the options weren't picked up, maybe they thought he was going to be gone at the end of
Yep.
the year anyway? Or
was it the other way around? Did he know even before the September collapse that this wasn't his team anymore? And did he even tell them, hey, let's not even bring up my contract because I want out no matter what? I find it hard to believe that all this stuff came down in 30 days. There had to be some semblance of the disorder.
Oh, yeah.
during
I think
the summer,
Francona
right?
alluded to that a little bit in his press conference, a little bit. He didn't say it directly, but I think
Yeah.
he said there were signs maybe,
Yeah.
even while they went like 80 and 42 in the
Correct.
middle of the season
Yeah.
for those 4 months, and all of a sudden, just everything, kind of the bottom dropped right out, and everyone stopped listening to him. I mean, the thing that really bothers me about that though is here's a guy who's a player's manager. He bends over backwards for his players.
Right.
He takes the heat for the players. Like
Never throws
he won't-
anybody under
Never,
the bus.
even
He won't
Manny,
go-
never threw Manny under the
After
bus,
every
ever.
game, he was out there addressing the media.
Right.
Never once did he ever say anything bad about any of his players.
Right.
And this is how the players treat him. They take advantage. They become fat cats. We can go back in time here, Howie, when we were talking about the transition from Bill Parcells to Pete Carroll. And I thought Pete Carroll would be the right coach for these guys because I thought they were mature and
Right.
ready to accept handling their own responsibilities.
So did they.
And
Right.
the 2011 Red Sox are reminding me a lot of those late 90s Patriots teams.
Right.
There's quite a few veterans on this Sox team,
Yeah.
and there's no reason why they couldn't be professionals and perform, to their, where's your personal pride? I mean,
Or at least stand up and say, hey, guys, you can't do this. This ain't right. Where's the internal policing?
I mean, I agree. Look, we can joke about the drinking in the clubhouse, and we all know that it's happened before on other teams, and we all know that 2004 crew were doing shots at Jack or whatever they were doing before the game, and we all remember '86 when Kevin Mitchell's in the dugout having a beer in 1986 Game 6 of the World Series. Ended up he had to get up to bat.
Yeah,
Got
'cause
a
he
hit,
thought
by
the game
way.
was over.
Yeah, he's in the clubhouse with Hernandez drinking. So I get it. Booze and baseball go together. It always has, but. You are a professional. And I was on a radio show recently, and someone brought this up, and they actually changed my opinion on it because I was kind of poo-pooing it a little bit as nothing. But you know what? You are a professional, and you do represent. And even if you are on an off day, you shouldn't be drinking in the club. Go to any club you want, do what you want.
Well, you should be out there supporting your teammates.
You should,
And,
right.
Yeah, that's
it
about
doesn't,
it.
it doesn't send the right message to anybody when you're in the clubhouse drinking, or definitely in the dugout.
Especially when the team's starting to spiral. You
Yeah,
figure they
and-
need everybody out there, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And there's the difference between 04 and this year. When they were doing it in 04, they were down 3-0 to the Yankees, and Kevin Millar came up with the idea, cowboy up. It was kind of a unifying
That's right.
thing. And, they did one little shot. I mean, they weren't like, oh, give me the bottle, and we were all down on them before
Right.
the game. I don't think they would have been able to come back and win 4 straight if they were doing that, obviously. But, in this case, it seemed to have the drinking that we're hearing about for this
It
season
separated
seemed to have
the,
fractured the clubhouse.
the regular players from the pitchers. It's like
Yeah.
it split the team.
Right.
Exactly. There was like a clique going on, and or different cliques, and the whole team kind of got fractured, and there was no unity. And you had guys. I mean, They even mentioned somebody like Jacoby Ellsbury. He keeps to himself a lot. He's quiet. I think part of it.
I
is
think that
kind
was
of-
because he got ripped last year by his teammates.
And I think that was part of it, but then also, trying to work his way, back or trying to kind of reassimilate this year, and then he kind of sees some of these guys aren't really trying, or
Who made the comment that drove me crazy? A position player can't say anything to a pitcher. Where did that rule come in?
That comes in. No.
yeah, was that the case 20, 30 years ago?
Of course. You think Ty Cobb would have had a problem saying something with starting pitcher?
Right.
I don't think so.
You brought up Millar, and that's a guy who was a legitimate, for all his joking around, and he was a great leader. I can remember in 03 when they ended up going to the ALCS, and the team was down a little bit as it got late in the year. They were falling behind, and the media started, as they normally do, going after him, criticizing them, writing them off. And Millar said, you know what, we're going to come back from this, and I know who wrote what, and you're not going to be allowed in the clubhouse when the time comes for the champagne and all that. And he stood up to them, and he put himself on the line in this tough media market, Boston. He put himself out there. There's no one on that team this year that was going to do that. And you know what? Look, everyone's Pedroia. I still look at Pedroia as somewhat of a young player. I'm not sure Pedroia is ready to step up and be that kind of guy yet. I think it's in him.
But this was his 2011 was his 5th full season.
I know. There's something about him.
I hate to say it, but I think it's because he looks like everyone's little brother.
I think you're right. I think it might be the physical. Yeah,
it is. He's 5'6", and
and shrinking apparently.
But you know what I mean. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when he's got to look up and say, "What do you think you're doing?"
But you know what? Haven't we learned?
Wait a minute, Randy Johnson's not. It's not like a guy's he's looking up that high. I mean, these guys aren't that.
Haven't we learned though? I mean, people always talk about with professional sports. Oh, you don't need leadership. You lead by example.
And you don't need chemistry.
Yeah, you don't need
chemistry.
But haven't we seen, not only with the Red Sox, but even with the Patriots, that leadership's important? That when you lose guys like Bruschi and whatever, you can maybe replace the strength and then the weight room and even the skill to a certain extent. But it's hard to replace leaders. And those teams that won in 04 and 07 had leaders. And great, you can go and you can find the best free agent like Gonzalez, and he had a great year, an unbelievable year. But that doesn't mean he's going to be a leader. That doesn't mean when these things happen that he's going to step up because he's a good player and try to clean up the clubhouse. That's a different breed.
That's why I've always said you might be able to find someone to take their place, but you won't replace them. There's
Correct.
a difference between them.
Very true.
Well, of course, from that point, after Francona left, the next big shoe to drop, and I'll have Lucas zoom in on this here. Of course, the Boston Globe front page story. This was from October 12th, so 12 days ago, and this was the one that kind of was really the big bomb that dropped as far as letting out a lot of stories. But here it is, front page. This is Bob Hohler was the reporter on this after quite a long investigation. There were a bunch of different accusations made. But no, this is the front page, not the front of the sports page, but page A1 right here, inside the collapse, and Bob Hohler does a really nice job giving you all the details of what happened. And of course, then we'd already heard some of the stories or rumors about the pitchers drinking beer, and of course here were these seem to be the biggest 3 culprits who were arguably 3 biggest starting pitchers on the staff, and I don't know where to start on any of this. I look at Lester in the middle, and I'm most disappointed in him, especially because he tuned out Terry Francona, and Francona always had his back. And think about what John Lester's been through. And I don't, in case you didn't know, of course, John Lester early in his career overcame cancer and, was back playing again. And I know Francona was there during that tough time, and, Lester was a younger player then, and it was just it was a very tough time, a scary time for everybody involved. And, it just, with that extra kind of bond, something a little different there, it's not between player and manager, you would have thought Lester would be the last guy to turn his back on Francona or to tune him out or something, no matter how many pitchers decided to go off eating chicken and drinking beer. It just seems to be, I guess that's where I start with this. And maybe, Lester, as he kind of even alluded to, he was just sort of, other guys were doing it. Maybe he wasn't the worst culprit, but it still bothered me to hear that he was kind of involved with it.
Beckett bothered me. If anyone should have been a leader,
well, yeah.
Josh Beckett should have been a leader. I mean, if anyone should have had respect on this team, it was him. If he's the one who thumbed his nose at Tito, then everyone follows suit. Mm-hmm. If he's the one who backs him up and tells everyone don't do this in the clubhouse, it's not right, get your butt out there and go support the team, then everyone's on board. But he floats off into the sunset. It was, hey, wait, why not?
And look at what he's done. Look at his postseason record: 2003 with the Marlins, 2007, of course, here with the Red Sox, and how well he pitched in both of those postseasons. And then then he just of course signed a big contract extension last year. And
but again, we was talking about. I mean, you have that great resume. You're looked upon as one of those guys who's an ace, and that doesn't mean you're an ace here, and that doesn't mean you're going to be a guy that backs up your manager or you're going to be a clubhouse leader. I don't think anyone ever looked at Josh Beckett as being a clubhouse leader anyway. He's a great pitcher when he was on, but I never looked at him like that. But Lester, I'm kind of with you on this. I figure a guy like Lester, And we've heard great stories about his relationship with Francona. And I'm sure that his drinking beer in the clubhouse wasn't, to him, a shot at Francona. But nonetheless, it's a bad image and a bad shadow you're casting on your manager when you're doing that. Now, obviously, they don't expect it to come out, but why wouldn't they expect it to come out? Everything comes out now.
Eventually,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, everybody talks. And, and Bob's column in the Globe that you held up, obviously there's now a lot of talk about who said what and did it come from the team. Not only that, but the stuff about Francona and some of the demons he was battling and all of that. Well, it came from the team. I don't know if it came from John Henry or
Right.
Larry Lucchino or Tom Werner, but it came from someone in the team, someone who knew.
Someone in upper management.
Clearly, I mean, someone there, who's in-house. That's where it comes from.
And that's the other thing that I think cast Francona in such a sympathetic light. 5 days after he gets fired, this comes out, front page of the
Yeah.
Globe, Francona, marital troubles and, accused of taking, too many painkillers.
Yeah.
And it's like, where did this, this just seems like a smear campaign tactic.
Yeah.
You expect to see this between two politicians. That's the front page story.
Right.
You expect to see, opponent B is, doing all this stuff and opponent A planted the story so it would appear in the paper. I mean, that's what this looks like. And of course, ownership knows how popular Terry Francona was. I mean, he was here 8 years, which is an eternity for a manager of the Red Sox,
Yeah.
obviously, and he won 2 championships. I mean, Francona will never have to buy a meal in this town ever again. And ownership knows that, and
beyond that,
there's been a reputation that
Yeah.
players and whoever leaves town seems to get a boot in the rear.
But beyond that, I thought he carried himself with tremendous grace. I wrote many a time that he was just a maestro with the media. His regular stints on WEI were, to me, classic. I mean, I think he's not, and he's not a media maestro in the Belichick way, which is just don't say anything.
I should just say,
he
unlike
said
Belichick.
stuff, but he controlled the conversation, and he always players first, always taking the hit for the players. I thought he carried himself like a Joe Torre did, and I thought he was sort of the heir apparent to Joe Torre in terms of the best manager in the game. I think he was and is the best manager in the game, to be honest with you. As great as Tony La Russa, I think, is adding to his resume now, what he's doing with St. Louis. I thought the Red Sox let the best manager in the game go. But I don't think they could have kept him because he wanted to go. He had it. He's also not he's not a schmuck either. I mean, he's like, you know what? I do have 2 World Series championships. I can go get a job. I don't have to take this stuff.
Did
I'm
either of
outta
you
here.
guys
This is a
catch
tough
him?
market too.
Yeah.
It wears on you. I mean,
I can only imagine
he had a
that
lot
it
of health
does.
issues during this time
And
here too. And
He said it in his press. He said this is a very, very, very difficult place to be a manager. It's great, but it's really hard,
Even when you're winning.
even when you're winning.
What did either of you happen to see Francona on the air in the broadcast booth for Fox
Yeah.
during the ALCS with Joe Buck? I only wish he had stayed more than 2 games. 'Cause,
Yeah, he
those
did a
were-
pretty good job.
I thought he was great, and in fact, it might be wise. Maybe the best.
but he
thing
says
for
he
him is
didn't
to-
want to do that. He wants to be back on the field.
Oh, he wants to manage.
But I think he enjoyed his time a little bit more than he
Yeah.
thought. And here's the part that scared me. I guess he and Joe Buck have been longtime friends.
Is that right?
Which
Why
did
does that
kind of
scare you?
in my it drops Francona down a couple notches. And I couldn't resist.
The thing is,
sorry.
I
But-
can't stand when they do that from a media standpoint. When they throw these guys who've really never done any media on the either in studio or at the anchor desk or in the booth for these playoff
biggest games, yeah.
Because it's not like
Horrible.
Fox didn't have other replacements
Yeah.
because Tim McCarver had to miss a couple of games. They
Yeah.
could have put in one of the backup analysts.
But he
that
was
they used.
surprisingly good.
He was
He
very
was very
candid,
good.
and I could see him maybe just taking a year off. I think he will manage again, but maybe the best thing is to take a year
Any
off.
chance he goes to the Cubs?
I
To him and Theo hook up again
that's
to
something,
create history?
I mean, it would be great. I mean, and how could if the opportunity presented itself, how could you say no? Because for both Theo and for Tito, if he ever did go there, if you break both those curses,
Oh, yeah.
you're the best at what you ever did ever. You're the best president, GM, whatever, and you're the best manager maybe ever. If you bring world championships to Boston and then to the Cubs, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
You're eligible for sainthood at that point.
Yeah,
So,
you could get a free meal anywhere in the world.
I
Probably.
can't imagine that
Forget about
everything is
those two.
great between them, though. So I can't imagine that happening.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can't imagine they'd want to work together again.
Well, we're going to continue to talk about this. I just wanted to get the phone number out, though. 617-484-2443. That is our number. We're here live on October 24th. I also forgot to do this at the top of the show, so I want to give a big shout-out to our good friend Steve Conley over at Conley's Pub and Grill. That is located at 164 Belmont Street in Watertown. I always mess it up. I was kind of waiting for the screen to pop up so I would get
it right?
Yes, I would get it right. Yes, 164 Belmont Street.
That doesn't look like
in
Conley's. It
Watertown.
is
There's
Conley's.
there it is. Well, actually, where Theo and Tito frequently visit. At least when they were here in town. Now that they're not, they'll be missing this place very
Not
much.
for fried chicken, though.
You won't be missing this place though, because you live in the area. So, and he actually brought us some great food tonight. Brought us some fried chicken, wings, and also
No beer, though.
and sliders, appropriately enough, with the pitchers.
Chicken
yeah.
parm sliders.
Yeah,
which
those-
I had never had.
So
Never
very
had
good. Yeah,
Very
so go check him out. Good place to check out the games on Sundays, or the World Series games that are left, of course. But let's continue along with the little saga, the soap opera that is the Red Sox. I was actually thinking of trying to come up with soap
Here we are in
opera.
the middle of the NFL season, right? And here we are talking about a team that's not even playing. Isn't
Well,
that
the
amazing?
Patriots are on a
Is
bye
this
week.
Is
They're
this
in
a
Boston,
baseball
man.
time?
We are gonna get to some Patriots though at the end of the show. I did want to set some time aside for that, but they are in a bye week, so
Yeah.
obviously this story is
Perfect time. Yeah,
first
nice
and
fill-in
foremost.
since they weren't playing this week.
Right,
There's a little something to
And the Rangers
sideline.
and the Cardinals are battling it out in the World Series, but I think most of us really don't
Nobody
care a whole
cares
lot about that. I've watched a little bit of the
But
series.
just
Albert
as a-
Pujols, by the way, though, 3 home runs in a
home
game.
runs.
That's
What's with
fantastic.
some of these games? 12, 14 runs. What's up with that?
Well, it started real low. I mean, it started
Yeah.
3-2,
Ah.
2-1.
Yeah, you had
and
some
then
good
all of a
pitchers,
sudden,
Jules,
yeah.
low
Yeah,
scoring.
but I mean, even in the ALCS and NLCS, I mean, there
Yeah.
was some high-scoring games.
Well, you had the Rangers and the
pitching.
Tigers, 2 teams that can hit.
Yeah, the Brewers.
Yeah,
I mean,
Brewers can hit, obviously.
Look, there are a lot of teams out there that have one great pitcher, maybe one great, one good, but then after that, it's. I mean, look at the Red Sox this year. I thought one of the saddest things this year, when we start talking about leadership and all of that. How about let's just talk about performance? Okay, you have players on this team like those 3 guys. Okay, all 3
We
guys.
didn't get to the third amigo
Yeah,
over here
I mean,
on the
all
left
3 of
either.
those guys have pretty good resumes in baseball, okay? And then you have Buchholz, who's looked upon as an up-and-comer, and then you have Matsuzaka, who's got somewhat of a good history in Japan, not necessarily here. And
I think his history
your
here's just
number one
about
pitching
finished.
story this year was Alfredo Aceves. I mean, it drives me up a wall. I mean, all credit in the world to that guy, but when that's your pitching MVP and you have these guys on your team,
There's a problem.
forget about leadership. How about performance? I was down in Tampa, the series at Tampa, the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I believe it was, of September. It was the beginning of the end, is what it was. And I was at the first game on a Friday night.
How'd you enjoy witnessing that history?
I didn't know I was witnessing history, but as it turns out,
You
and
did.
Lackey is pitching, and we had decent seats, and I was a fan. I was not a member of the media that night, and I'm watching.
Were you sitting
the guy,
near Dick Vitale?
you know what? I've met him at games before. He goes to a lot of the games.
Yeah, no, he's season ticket holder. Yeah.
He seeks
Big
me
fan.
out now. Yeah, right. And
That's because you usually buy.
Lackey's pitching, and he's had like 2 or 3 0-2 counts, and he just grooves it over the middle. I mean, this is little league stuff, guys. So it's not just the attitude or the off the field stuff or whatever. They just weren't focused on the game, it seemed to me, and that's what gets me mad. Hey, if you pitch your best and they beat you, great. But it's like you don't have any focus. Where's the focus? He was like he was on the mound in a complete daze.
Yeah, and just the way
We
he acted.
did hear
too.
about some of the off-field issues with him.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that was another one too. Why would you file for divorce a month before the season ends? Why not wait till the end of November? Wait till November. Why are you gonna bring that upon yourself in the middle of trying to make the playoffs?
And
I
while
mean,
your
if-
wife's dealing with cancer.
Yeah, and if things are that bad between you, again, why do you want to bring it up now?
Publicly.
And it's hard to juggle PR with real life. It is. It's very difficult to say, well, I'm going to wait and do that. But I see where you're coming from. And then pile it onto the fact that you're not the most popular player in the world anyway right now. And then you do that. I mean, I don't know. Look, when they signed Lackey, I was actually – and there were some people that said that he was not a good signing. I liked it because I always looked at him as a gamer. Again, we've kind of had this running leadership theme. And I looked at Lackey as a guy who could be a leader for this team. And – boy, he's just completely imploded in terms of his attitude, in terms of what he brings to the park, and everything off the field and on the field. Whatever could possibly go wrong has gone wrong for this guy. But much of it is brought on by himself. Yeah. You know, he's just been a complete and total wipeout. Now, can you blame Theo for that? You think Theo Epstein foresaw that this guy was going to be so bad? I didn't.
He had the single worst season of any pitcher in baseball history, I guess.
Is
This Red Sox
Is it just he
history.
can't pitch in this market? Can he not pitch under this type of pressure?
And in a roundabout way, that's what I was getting, is that maybe he is one of these guys who just can't handle being in a place like
Like a
this.
Renteria couldn't.
Exactly.
I mean, he's been great everywhere he's played, but he came
Exactly.
here and he was like a Play-Doh.
And I don't care what anyone says. It was, well, he was out in L.A. No, he wasn't. He was in Anaheim. He wasn't in L.A. And even if you're in L.A., it's different than Boston because there's so much in L.A. I mean, look, you just mentioned it. It's going on near winter, and we're talking about the Sox.
Yeah.
Okay? It's different here. It's different here than it is anywhere
In
else.
February, we're talking about this. Like January.
It's a year-round. The
It's
Red Sox are a
year-round.
year-round. It's fairly the only team around here, I think, that Patriots might be getting close to
They're-
that.
they're close
but
to it,
Red
yeah.
Sox have always been a year-round sport.
Right.
I mean, sometimes the off-season's more interesting
Right.
than the regular season. Really quick, as we wrap up the segment here about the players, who do you think's the true ringleader here? Was it Beckett, or do you think maybe Lackey? As far as like going down the wrong path and all the things we've heard going on in the clubhouse and the chicken orders and
Joint
stuff.
effort.
You think so?
Joint. No, it's a joint. I mean,
Yeah.
Lackey probably was he egged him on, but Beckett's the one that probably was the one that allowed it. I'll go back to him being he should have been the leader of the three.
Yeah.
If anyone should have stood up, it should have been him to say, "Nah, we really shouldn't do this, guys."
Yeah,
So
making-
Lackey was
yeah.
probably going, come on, we'll just go
You're
have a
not-
beer. We're not pitching. All right, let's
You're not
go.
making excuses, but of the three, the guy I could most understand drinking in the clubhouse would be Lackey. Just because
Yeah.
everything.
That's what I mean.
You know,
The year
trying to
and a
take
half.
away his
Like, I want to
problems.
have a couple drinks if I were him too. Like, of the three guys, the guy most likely to just throw in the towel and say the hell with it is Lackey. So I don't know if he started it or if Beckett, being Josh Beckett, kind of gave him the opportunity to do it, and Beckett didn't police his own staff, if you will.
He backed it.
He backed it up and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna have a beer with you," But like you said, definitely a joint effort. But of the three, I can almost sympathize with Lackey.
Yeah.
I would have had a little more than beer.
Yeah, he could have been. Millar should have recommended the shots again.
I'd have gone and find the stash there that Millar left. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's just.
Or maybe some of the stuff oil can left.
Well, he came out
It's
too, and
actually-
he said he was appalled by what was going on. And here's someone who he even admitted. Obviously he had a lot of issues, and he's got a book coming out soon.
Yeah, I was gonna
guess.
say I can't wait to read
Yeah.
that book. I
That's the
am
guy
gonna.
who's named after a beer can, saying
Right.
he was appalled.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, about what he said basically was that he never drank in the clubhouse or in the ballpark or anything. He said
Right.
the day of a game, maybe before he got to the ballpark, he may have had a beer.
Might have
or
had a
something,
beer with
but
lunch, yeah, but-
right. But
Now,
yeah,
McNamara, on the other hand, that would explain the whole Schiraldi Stanley.
Oh, boy.
That would explain big time.
yes,
I'd like to hear that John McNamara was drinking, because then it would give me
A reason.
closure as to why all that happened. Right.
right.
Oh, back then, that was the '80s. You might have been doing something else.
Correct.
Does Lackey? Do you have any
Slacky?
chance of bouncing back? He's got $45 million still owed. I can't see them trading him unless they want to eat. I mean,
44
Red Sox
of it?
have eaten a lot of contracts, but even eating I think 30, they'd have to eat at least that much, and I don't think ownership.
I
would
still
want to
say
do that.
he should have been the compensation for Theo.
I
Theo and
agree,
take
but-
Lackey, and we'll call it even.
We don't want anything.
Yeah,
you have
you
to
take
take him.
something, yeah.
Right.
I do tend to think the Cubs might have just said, you know what, as badly as we want Theo, we'll wait. And
Yeah, wait a year until he's off.
I don't see a bounce back, to answer your question, Ty. I don't see a. Now, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. It would be great if they bring in Charrington and then they bring in a good manager, whether he's a taskmaster or a player's guy or some combo. It'd be great to have a nice fresh start down in Fort Myers. And if Lackey could lead that charge, it'd be great. But I'm not getting that vibe right now. I'm thinking at some point they're going to cut bait, even if they have to pay most of the salary. Now, the flip side of that, I think Kyle Crawford will bounce back. I think Kyle Crawford, who's been very disappointing in terms of his play, not his attitude really, but his play, I think he's still going to be a good ball player for this team. I think he's worth another year.
Yeah, we've been saying that all
I
along.
don't
With
cut
all
bait
the
on
critics
him.
have been
Yeah.
saying, get rid of him, he's no good.
Yeah.
he was one of the
Neither
few
one of
guys
us.
who even got painted in a good light after all this fought. It sounds like he tried to call a team meeting
Yeah.
sometime during the September when things started going bad, and it just fell on deaf ears. Both he and Gonzalez kind of came into this clubhouse, and they didn't know what hit them. I mean, they had come from totally different atmospheres, and came here, and they said, I must have imagined to them must have been like walking into a country club, and they weren't members.
Well, they probably expected other people to do the policing because they were the new guys. They
Right,
probably
that's
figured,
it.
Here's an
I mean,
established
right.
team. They got to have someone that does
You
this.
know when you're a
Yeah,
new
you can't be the new
yeah.
guy, even if you're getting paid the most money. You can't just
Right.
come right in and pull rank on everybody.
Correct.
You don't know all these guys.
Yeah, and I also think that, you could almost see it in his face. And when I was at the ballpark, you could see it in his face that Kyle Crawford was trying so hard this year. He was pressing so badly this year, and I think it was to live up to the money. I really, really do. I think that he, right from the get-go, felt like he needed to be bigger and better than he ever was. And right from the start, you could see him pressing every time he went up there. I have to do it. I have to get a triple. I have to get a home run here to be what they paid me to be. And I think you got to get over that. I think fans have to get over it, and I think the ball player himself has to get over it and just go out and play. You earn the money by what you did in the past. You earn that money. So just go play now. I think that's what he has to do next year, and I think he will.
Do what you've always done.
That's it. You can't. I mean, the money is crazy. It's crazy money. Does things to you.
It does. 617-484-2443. We welcome you tonight. It is Monday night, October the 24th, 2011, and I want to take this opportunity, and we'll have Lucas zoom in on the camera again. I have to wish my godson, Ryan, very cute little kid, as you'll see in this photo here. It is his 5th birthday. In fact, he was born 5 years ago this very minute as we are broadcasting the show at 8:44 on the 24th of October. And I actually attended his birthday party yesterday with all his little friends invited. But you can see he's hamming it up there. Grabbed some glasses off the rack, and he is a cutie and a fun kid. And so happy birthday, Ryan Benedictus,
Well,
my godson.
He's a cute kid because he's his godson, not his son.
Right, that's the difference. Yes.
Listen, uncles are important in the world.
Came from
You're a good uncle.
Yes, came from good parents. Yeah, he's loving Batman and Darth Vader right now, are his two favorites. I think something about the masks and the cowls or something. I don't know. Although you got one good guy and one on the dark side.
You hope this never happens in the future. If they get into a little bit of trouble and they can't call mom and dad, they're going to be calling Uncle Todd.
There you go. Well,
I'm an
this is
uncle
the
too,
first
so.
time they actually had a chance to, that we had a chance to observe his birthday right here in the middle of the show. Anyway,
great.
we're going to wrap up this Red Sox segment, getting back to, of course, I mentioned it is October 24th. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 25th, will be the day that both the Chicago Cubs and Red Sox are going to hold joint press conferences to announce their new general managers. We'll start with the Cubs first, Theo Epstein. And the Theo era. There were swings, there were misses, but there seemed to be a lot of hits in between.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a great run. But again, like we said earlier at the beginning of the show, it was just time.
Yeah.
It was getting on. And I think he was tired of being under Lucchino's thumb. And I think that had a lot to do with it, too. He just wants to be his own man.
Right.
And this was the only way to do it, was to leave town.
This isn't a lateral move for him. This is a step up.
Yeah.
And,
but he's leaving home. I mean, this is a little
he is
different.
leaving
He's
home,
the
but-
hometown kid who brought 2 championships here,
Right.
but he had done everything maybe he could here.
And I think, he's 37 years old now, so he's not a little kid anymore. But what else can you do? When you've brought those 2 here and things haven't been great over the last couple. And again, like I said about Francona, it's the Cubs, man. It's that holy grail. It's a chance to do it again in an even, I won't say bigger market, but an even more
Larger
grandiose, cursed situation, right? Yeah. I mean, the Cubs are worse than the Red Sox ever because the Cubs seldom even come close.
Yeah, and it's been a lot longer for them,
Yeah.
too.
So,
103 years now.
Yeah, so if you can do that, I think the professional opportunity, all this stuff aside, all the controversy aside, I even think if things were great and super and fantastic and they had the King family and the Musketeers in that clubhouse and everybody loved each other, up with people, I still think the Cubs job would be a tough one to turn down for Theo Epstein. Because it's the Cubs. It's a chance to do something no one's done.
Yeah,
And
create history.
for a
Again.
kid, I say kid because I got 10 years on him. For a guy like that, a driven young man like
Grew
that.
up in Brookline.
Man, that's a tough thing to turn down.
Because that'll be making history twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you just said no matter what the scenario with the team, it's a great opportunity. I argue it would probably be a lot easier if maybe the Red Sox were on top right now. Because do you think Theo has any remorse at all about leaving the team kind of like this?
How bad are they though? Really? I mean, how far do you think this team's going to fall?
This is a team we thought that was going to win 100 games
right.
this year.
Yeah. And
It
they
did win 90.
I mean,
with
won
a-
90 games. I mean,
with
it
a
was
horrible
unbelievable.
September, they still won 90 games.
And a horrible April.
So how far away are they really? I mean, they're not going to look. I agree. I get it. They finished 3rd, but they got a few little things to fix up here and there. I don't think they're that far away. I don't think we're going to see a swoon now and see the Red Sox not even challenge for the playoffs for 5 or 6 years. That's not going to happen. The league, baseball isn't lined up so that can happen. It still very much favors organizations like the Red Sox. So they're going to be in it next year. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Again, it was a terrible September and it's a terrible April. They started out of the
Correct.
gate, were they 3-12? So I mean,
Right.
And they still only missed by how much?
I think 99%.
You know, I missed by a
If
game.
they go 4-11,
Yeah.
they're in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it,
I
right?
think John
In
Henry
April?
said that too.
Right?
Yeah, he
so,
said that.
I mean, they bookended 2 horrible months and then a great season in between. A lot of stuff. Look, it's not only a lot of stuff, but then it's a lot of analysis and conjecture and lies and truths and untruths. So it makes it seem worse. But in the end, the sun will be shining in Fort Myers, and everybody will be ready for another run at the playoffs.
And we'll all have lunch. Oh, that's another former.
In most places, this wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah.
This
Right.
would just be at the end of another season.
That's right.
Here, it's going to be carried on, except right till they open up spring
Yeah.
training.
Right.
And then it's going to be carried right through that.
Right.
You win 2 championships, but in the end, it's what have you done for me lately? I swear 99% of all sports talk shows are probably going to paint Theo and remember, the signings of late. They'll remember Lackey. They'll remember every signing of late that has not worked out for one reason or another.
Right.
But I think we're all sort of in agreement that I think, in the end, you have to thank Theo for what he did. Obviously, not every move was perfect, and free agents, the big price ones were a problem, but he did help build up that farm system, and he did it, here's the segue, with the help of Director of Player Development, soon to be next General Manager of the Red Sox, Ben Sherrington, who ironically enough, going back, he actually was a pre this whole ownership era. He goes back to 1998, originally started with the Red Sox, and he was a hire by Dan Duquette,
That's right.
both Amherst College graduates.
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
now Ben gets, he's held just about every position in baseball in the front office there is, so I think it's time for him, and, I think he'll do a good job.
To your point with Theo and how we remember him, for a kid who was literally their 4th choice. I mean, he was not their first choice.
That's right.
Back
You mean Brad Pitt was their first choice?
Brad Pitt was, and then Ben Affleck, I believe, and then Matt Damon, and then
I liked that movie, by the way. I saw Moneyball recently.
I have not
People
seen
were
it. I want
talking
to see
about
it.
it like it was just really fantastic. My mom even saw it, and she's not a huge baseball fan,
Yeah.
but she told me it was a great movie. I liked it, but I just don't know if I want to say it was great. It seems like something was, and I know it was all true, everything happened, but it just, something wasn't quite there. I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't just love it as a great sports movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to see
Am I
it.
damning it with faint praise by saying that? I don't know. But
I haven't seen
wasn't-
it.
I would recommend seeing it, but just, I'm just telling you how I felt.
It wasn't like
Yeah.
The Departed or something, huh?
Well, that wasn't even a sports movie, but
Well,
yeah, no.
you
Nobody,
could,
yeah,
you could
nobody
consider.
got killed in Moneyball, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, The Departed killing could be a sport,
Maybe they'll make The Departed about the 2011
I
Red
just-
Sox.
I just
Larry
think-
Lucchino in the role of Jack Nicholson.
I just think to a certain extent the story of the Billy Bean thing, it's great. I get it, but
Yeah,
they
but it'd be
never
boring.
they never went to the World Series. They
Right.
never even made the World Series.
Maybe that's what it was. I just,
I mean, I understand they changed how people.
So what's so great
do
about
it.
the process if they haven't won anything?
Well, because Theo used the process
Right.
because they have money.
Yeah.
It's more money than ball, right? I mean, you need to have.
you need to have more money to have
I know.
better
I
ball.
would walk the tightrope there, but I'm all right. But I'm just saying, it's more money than ball. So you got to have the money
Right.
to make Moneyball work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Theo had the money to make it work, so they went and won the World Series.
So why'd they even call it Moneyball? Glenn, when he
They
didn't
were
have the
called
money.
Tight purse strings ball.
It's just, it's the same as what happened.
Oh, the places we
is-
could go, but
this
it's
is
time
not
to
gonna
talk
go-
that was
football.
really-
This isn't going to go anywhere
That even
good
walks
right
the
now.
617-484-2443. We are winding down here. And again, another shout out. I want to thank our good friend Steve Conley from Conley's Pub and Grill for supplying us with some great snacks tonight. Much appreciated. You can find him on 164 Belmont Street in Watertown. And I did that blindly without even having to see it up on the screen. But there it is. We are going to talk some Patriots here as we wind down the show. Of course, they're coming off a bye week, but it's it's been another good regular season so far. 5-1. A couple of impressive wins against the Jets and the Cowboys. They won those games a little bit different than they beat the Jets running the ball more, which is very encouraging. We hadn't seen that much of the season, and then they beat the Cowboys because the Cowboys don't know how to run out the clock. Jason Garrett apparently has no confidence in Tony Romo, his quarterback, who's got a pretty good arm, except when it counts.
And they won both games without Ocho.
Yes.
Well, then again, they won all the games
won
without
all the
Ocho.
games.
Yeah, they won all right.
What's up with that? Are they going to keep him?
Well-
are they going to jettison him?
Well, what
or-
happens when that's the talk when Falk is ready to come back? Do you dump Ocho
Yeah, I think they've got a
Well,
couple more weeks to decide on.
Well, they
on
say
Kevin Falk.
T.O.'s ready. I mean, should we bring in the last
T.O.
third
is
of the three
ready.
amigos receivers?
Oh, my God.
Moss, Ocho. Now we're bringing T.O. We'll see what he can do for us.
I don't know. I'm going to sound so stupid here, but I still think at some point
He's going to do something.
he's going to win a game for this team.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't know why he's so out of it. He's not even that he's in the game and is ineffective. Like, he's not even in the game.
Yeah.
He's having like 3-4 snaps a game. So something's up. And then they're saying he's doing real well in practice. Shouldn't that mean that he gets in the game?
Yeah.
So I think they're doing a little public relations two-step here, because I think they want him to be good and they want him to help. But I really hope that he would at least be something, whether it was the second guy. I mean, I actually had dreams maybe him being the number one and Welker being the two, because Welker is a little more comfortable, I think, in that two role. But boy, he's just been completely and totally non-existent.
Yeah,
For
I didn't expect that.
Yeah. I expected at least something. I expected to see his name in the stat sheet at the end of each game. But
You think because he's being quiet, because he's going out of his way to do it the Patriot way?
He's being less of a twit. I mean, he's
Correct.
twittering less. That's
Right,
what
right.
Sorry.
But maybe that's affecting his play.
No, I was going to say, I think I know where you're going, because
Yeah.
he's not being a loudmouth and having to show that he has
Yeah,
to do something.
right.
He's not playing the way he's
See, like
capable.
you talk about the Jets, everyone says, Rex Ryan, he keeps talking, but I think they feed off of that.
Yeah, they
I
have
think
to back it up.
I think if he becomes humble, they're going to go down the tubes. I think they have to play with a chip on their shoulder. He gives them something to prove. That's why I think he's a good coach for that team. But I wonder if that has anything to do with Ocho Cinco. You're trying so hard to do it the Patriot way that maybe you've kind of forgotten your own roots and what made you. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, you
He
forgot
was a
the
good,
Ocho
good
way.
receiver.
Maybe he should go back to being Chad Johnson.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought he should have done that as soon as he signed with the Patriots, or as soon as they made the trade or whatever. But yeah, I thought he should have changed his name back. I thought that was going to make a lot
Does
more
he
sense.
even have
could've-
Ocho catches this year? I don't think he even has Ocho.
Well, actually, in the Dallas game, he had. No, I'm sorry. Oh, for the season?
For the season. Does he have Ocho?
For a minute, I thought Ocho meant 0. I was going to say, yes, he's done that. He did that in the last game.
Yeah, no.
The only thing that's going to save him.
Yeah,
but-
he's got Ocho
Okay.
+1.
There you
You're
go.
right.
So he's got Nueve.
He's got Nueve.
Nueve Recepciones.
Can we do the rest of the show on Espanol?
No.
Okay.
If you do,
That was
I'm
the
out.
English, no, not the Spanish.
The only Spanish I know, I get my face slapped. So I'm
There
out.
you go.
Yeah, do not press the SAP button
Right,
on your
no,
set,
no,
because
you're
you're not
fine.
going to
Even
find
though we
any-
are
fine.
saps.
Yeah,
I
right. Yeah,
think-
that's true.
What's encouraging about the Pats is kind of what you said, Howie, and what you said, Todd, is that they've won some games different ways. They did beat the Raiders largely running the ball with BenJarvus Greenhouse. We know they can fling it. Then they won that close game against Dallas where the defense played okay, the offense was terrible.
It's been a long time since we've seen him come back in the
Yeah.
final minutes to win a game
And it's
like
been
that.
a long time
too.
since they've won a close game with a low score, too. So that's good to see. The third down conversion thing with the defense is very troubling in terms of them not being able to get offenses off
They've got the
field.
top-rated offense and the 32nd.
Yeah,
that's dead
tough.
last
And that's-
ranked defense.
And that's going to
gets
kill
the
you when you
pass.
go up against, if it's Baltimore now, if Baltimore's the team now, it's going to kill you when you play a team
But you
like
know what's
that.
funny? Yeah, everyone talks about the defense, but look at the last game: 16 points, 21 points, 19 points. I mean,
It's improving.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't bad to hold teams to.
And really, Howie, that's what you should circle, because I don't care how many yards they give up.
No, it's how many points, yeah.
Right. I don't care if they give up 500 yards a game. It's points.
And Howie, you were very quick to point out, I know the last game we watched together, the Dallas game, 92, there's another number to circle. A lot of people are thinking Albert Hainsworth's not doing anything out there on the field. He's barely in the games. But you picked up very quickly, you noticed when he was out there, and you also noticed how it affected, Dallas trying to run plays. They'd run plays away from him. The line would sort of collapse. I mean, you saw how it altered Dallas's offense.
That's a good run away from Albert. Oh, geez, this Vince Wilfork there.
Yeah. He's doing exactly what that's what he's doing. What he's doing, what Ocho Cinco isn't doing. He's doing exactly what the Patriots need him to do right now. And what he's doing, you don't see on a stat sheet.
Yeah.
Because he's not running in and sacking the quarterback. He's playing the Siragusa role, man. He's just plugging that line and making it hard to move.
Making two guys work on him
That's it.
every play.
Want to mention our next show is coming up November the 21st. That's the week of Thanksgiving. We're also going to be on at a special time because the Patriots are playing that night. They have a Monday night game against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's an 8:30 kickoff. We will lead you right into the kickoff of the Patriots and Chiefs. So we will be on at 7:30. So mark your calendar, 7:30. We'll still be on for the full hour, Howie and I, with whoever our guest happens to be then. But we will be our
Probably no one, because they'll all be home watching the
your
game.
unofficial Patriot preview. Yeah, well, maybe we'll see.
Be the two of us.
We'll see if we can dig. We'll see if we can dig somebody up right away, or maybe we'll.
Victoria will
or
be
we'll
the third
pretend to be at
guest.
the stadium. John Mallory, thank you very much for coming in. Good to have you back again. You know, hopefully this next time we'll get you back in a little sooner.
We should do it during spring training so we can talk about how great things are going to be with the Red Sox.
There
right?
you go. Works for me.
Anytime. I love coming in and seeing you guys. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Howie,
It's always nice having you.
Howie, always good to see you, of course. And, thanks to our hardworking crew out there doing a great job tonight. We will see you next month. Until then, bye.